Hey everybody, it's Joel Marshall here, and we are here for another episode of Lunch Therapy. This is a daily show where we check in, and the mission of Lunch Therapy is just to talk about something stupid and forget about the important things just for a half an hour or so, maybe even 15 minutes. Just take a breather. We like to take a breath in this moment. The first thing we're going to do is just take in a breath. And then just let it out. Okay? Well, we're going to breathe in through the nose and hold it, and then we're going to let it go. Just feels so much better. So this is a no news zone. I mean, there's some news that happens, but generally it's just some improv stand-up, some guests, a little bit of surprise here and there. Take suggestions from the audience. People are going to give me suggestions because I'm taping today. I can't do the live thing because when I do the live thing, Spectrum has been letting me down. So I'm just taping today, which is fun anyway. It's a continuous recording though, so when things go wrong, they go wrong. And it's one of those things that I'm working on in life is trying not to be a perfectionist about everything. And, you got to just keep moving along. You got to keep moving along. And people get, you get scared about things. I get scared. Just even the idea of doing improvisational comedy on the internet. Some people that I've talked to, they're like, whoa, I don't know. There's no audience. And I couldn't do that. It's just too sad. And, that was one of those little worms that got into my head recently where you're like, what are you doing, man? That's like crazy. There's no audience. It's just everything's ruined because there's no audiences and stand-up is just stopped. But, we got to find new ways. We got to find new ways to do things and have fun and get our rocks off. That's what we got to do. We got to find new ways. So I'm glad that you're joining me. Tell your friends about it. Subscribe. There's a lot of fun to be had. And you'll see today, I had a little surprise from a friend of mine that I'm going to, play later on. Any other business? Well, we're going to start Fat Free Film up, the podcast. Fat Free Film is going to be starting again soon with our first guest. It's a surprise as well. We have no idea who that is. It's a surprise to me. If you have any suggestions for guests for Fat Free Film is about independent filmmaking. Yesterday we had Tom Kearney on. We did our first Skype interview. Tomorrow we're going to have Jimmy Shin. Jimmy Shin is a comedian here in Los Angeles and also just around the country. He's he's an inspiration to me because he is somebody who has always supported me by putting me in his shows and taking me places and letting me learn about comedy and feature and host. And we did a show in Tacoma. We did a show in Portland, and then all around here at the Comedy Store and Sycamore Tavern and various places. And I'm very happy to have him on the show. He's agreed to be on the show, and we're gonna Skype him in tomorrow. So we got that to look forward to. I'm just gonna step into my library here, because reading is important, and you got to have books, and you got to be, a lot of us are hunkering down and reading books these days. Tell me what books you're reading. You can put it in the comments section. A lot of us are reading books to calm down because things are kind of stressful. Some of the good books out there for calming down, Eckhart Tolle's book. I always say, you got to read anything by Eckhart Tolle because it's some pretty mind-blowing stuff. There's a book somebody sent me today called Wherever You Go, There You Are. It's a good book for somebody that wants to get into meditation but can't, sit still. Can't figure out what to do. There's also that book, 10% Happier. I did it. I mean, that's actually what moved me on to Eckhart Tolle, because this guy who wrote 10% Happier, he didn't want to go, super hardcore with the being present and at first he was very resistant to the meditation. And I think all of us get that way. A lot of us get that way because you're like, I got to be doing. That's what happens in my head all the time. You got to be doing. And meditation is essentially not doing. It's not doing anything, or it feels like it at least. And in fact, as soon as you try and make it some kind of purpose, you're not really meditating. That seems sort of, I don't know, like why, you always got to have a reason for doing things. That's the way the way we've gotten in our society is everything has to have a reason. Everything has to have a purpose. Everything has to have an outcome. Everything has to have a payoff. And we just get on that gerbil wheel, spinning away because everything's so important. And then one day we kick off. And you wonder, that's so shocking too, when we lose people in life. We're like, but they were moving along. They were like going for something and, then all of a sudden they're gone. But that's part of life. And that's what's so great about life is that if there was not death, life wouldn't be as precious as it is. So it gives it value, I guess, right? Sometimes they say you got to give things value, otherwise people don't respect them. Maybe this is something that's happening in our society now, is we're figuring out what's of value and what's valuable to us. And when things are taken away, especially our human interaction, we miss it. Theme of today is keep on trucking. I'm not, this is lunch therapy, so we're not getting all too heavy. But some things you need to say, some things you need to remind yourself of is let's enjoy this moment, right? Let's enjoy this moment together. Today I wanted to talk about a few things. One thing is keep on trucking, but we're going to talk about that more in the future. I got to go back to the regular thing so you can see the R. Crumb. This is R. Crumb's guy, the Keep on Truckin' guy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but when I was younger, that was something that we saw. Keep on trucking. We saw this stuff when we were kids, and we didn't really know what they were. No one explained it to us. See, that was back in when I was a kid, we didn't have the internet. So we had to study things for clues. We would have you'd see something like this somewhere, like on the back of somebody's truck or something. Those mud flaps. You'd see this guy and it'd say, keep on trucking. He'd be walking, like that. And you're like, I don't know what that is. But there's nothing to explain it to you. You couldn't go to the library and find a book on keep on trucking. Maybe you could, but you'd have to, go somewhere. And a lot of times what you do is you just ask your friend, hey, what's that keep on trucking thing? My friend at the time thought this guy was a hooker. Somehow he had gotten his information mixed up. And he thought this guy was a hooker. And there were other guys too that were they had a big feather. They were maybe pimps and they were walking like that too. Or maybe they were, just zoot suit guys walking around. But he decided, and I agreed, that this was a hooker. We used to argue with each other about who was the hooker. See, then you just extrapolate these things. They just go into their whole mythology, where I'd be like, I'm the hooker in this town. He'd be like, no, I'm the hooker in this town. No, I am. And we'd get into these arguments about who was the hooker. I wrote a song about it. Maybe someday I'll play it for you guys. It's one of the lines is, I'm the hooker in this town. One of my favorites. I haven't written many songs, but that's a good one. One thing that I wanted to talk about today, I was feeling sort of insecure, sort of like, where's this thing going? What are you doing, Marshall? What the hell is this lunch therapy thing? And I thought about insecurities, which is kind of, one of the themes of comedy, I guess. And just being as a comedian, you want to be as kind of open as possible. And, I've talked a lot about how I was a fat little kid, right? And I used to, hide that fat. And guy would get really, kind of frustrated because it seemed like I was, the only one. Everybody else was like in good shape. And, I was athletic. I did the things I did. I don't know what I was doing wrong. My friend, one time we stayed overnight and he put on my pants and they were all big and just, pretty embarrassing. Not for them. To them, it was like fun. It was a fun thing. Me being all fat. That's the thing, is I took it as like some horrible, horrible thing. And to everybody else, it was just like fun. But I would get really frustrated. And there was this one movie that just spoke to me. And I don't know if you guys, I know they've made a remake of this, but there was the movie Bad News Bears, right? The original one with Walter Matthau. If Walter Matthau was one of the greats. But also there was a sequel called The Bad News Bears in Breaking Training. And this didn't have Walter Matthau. It had William Devane, who was another pretty cool actor at the time. Really great guy. He played the coach of the Bad News Bears. And there was this guy in there, this character that Jackie Earle Haley played. And Jackie Earle Haley was like the cool kid. He rode up on a motorcycle in Bad News Bears, I think. And he didn't, really want to be on the team because he was too cool. And, but deep inside, he was actually hurt and insecure and just having all this stuff going on, which a lot of times the coolest people are the people that we think are so cool. They're having a lot of pain. And they're putting it out there that they're, it's like a wall. Being cool sometimes is like a wall between, you and the rest of the world. Cause you're like, well, back off. Like I have this friend who's not, I don't see him very often at all because I'm kind of scared of him. Right. But he's always often very contrary about things that I say. And I get sort of, I don't hang out with him because he's too cool for me, I think. I get scared. And I also find that sometimes when I say things to him, in the past, when I've said things to him, he always says like the opposite. Like if I say I like comic books, he says, oh, comic books are stupid. And then, then later on, I see him reading a comic book. So, or if I say, hey, I really like Pinkberry, he'll be like, oh, Pinkberry is terrible. This, it's got a bunch of plastic in it or something. I don't know. And then, later on I realize the next day I'll be like, yeah, Pinkberry sucks. And then he'll be like, oh, I love Pinkberry. And that's kind of the cool thing, to be contrary, because then you're different all the time. You're always different. So here's this guy in Bad News Bears and Breaking Training. I have the poster here. This is the movie. They don't really make posters like this anymore, do they? I mean, these are cool. This is what sometimes they do. I think just sort of nostalgic kind of posters. But this is a cool movie. Yeah, Bad News Bears. It was a sequel, all new, it says. I think maybe we didn't have a lot of sequels back then. So he's like, they wanted to make sure that you knew this wasn't the same movie as before. This is an all new one. So it had a lot of the same characters in there. The Looper, which was this, kid, and really fun little blonde kid. Maybe you remember the Looper. But there was a moment in this that I've been, was wondering about, because it's always stuck in my head. And when I was a little kid, I went to the Frederick and Nelson's to try on bathing suits, and it was really frustrating because, I looked horrible in a bathing suit. So I'd go into their Frederick and Nelson's by myself. I wouldn't go with my mom, because my mom would be like, Joel would like this. And, she kind of loud and boisterous, didn't realize how stressful it was for me. And I didn't want to go into the dressing room. When you go into the dressing room, you go in there and you're trying the thing on, and you put it on and it looks terrible. And everybody's like, come on out, show us what it looks like. And you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. And the other weird thing about trying on bathing suits is they always have those signs that say, wear your underwear when you're trying on the bathing suit, because they don't want you to, get your, something on there. They don't want that. So they have you wear the underwear. Oh, maybe your venereal disease. I don't know. Yeah, that's probably it. They don't want you to get your venereal disease on there. So you got to wear your underwear and try on. And when you're trying on like a Speedo or something, or it just looks ridiculous. You can't tell what this is going to be like. But I wasn't trying on Speedos. I was trying on just big shorts that that when you're kind of fat in the midsection, the waistband really is important. They figured this out later on. At this time, I don't know if they had figured this out, but when the waistband is all bunched up like that, it adds volume, and it also pinches your fat so that your fat kind of rolls over it. So I was trying on all these shorts, and they were all like that. Now they make them kind of smooth sometimes at the top. But anyway, that's what I was trying this stuff on, and every time I put it on, it just was horrendous. But at least I was by myself. I had gotten away from my parents. My parents were gone. I was by myself in there in the dressing room looking at this horrendous thing, and no one was outside going, Joel, bring it out here. Come out here and tell us what it looks like. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but dressing rooms are the most stressful place in the world, I think. One of the most stressful. Well, there are other more stressful places, I guess. That's an exaggeration. But they're pretty stressful. Some stores, they even use special mirrors to make you look better, or they make special lighting. I've noticed that. Like if you go to Nordstrom, they've got special lighting. But back then I was at Frederick & Nelson, which was a rival of Nordstrom at the time. Now it's gone. I'm in there trying on the thing. I finally got so frustrated. That I left the bathing suits, and I went out, and I was just walking out, and I got to the door to leave, and I opened up the door, and they were doing construction. This was at the Aurora Village Mall in Seattle, and they were doing construction, and they were paving it. So they had dug up the whole mall area, and there was a lot of gravel. And I got out there, and I remembered this scene from Bad News Bears Breaking Training. It always stuck with me. I found it. I'm going to show you. Jackie Earl Haley, long-haired dude. It's, my idol still to this day. Someday I'll be as cool as Jackie Earl Haley in this movie. But here it is. So there he is. He's all frustrated. He just got really frustrated because William Devane, his coach, just yelled at him. And the other guys were just making fun of him. And here he is. Here he is going out of the Frederick and Nelsons, just like me. There's all this gravel. And he's just like, oh man, I'm so angry. I'm just going to run. I'm just going to run. I'm just going to run it off. And this is the way you get out your angst. And oh, that bathing suit. I mean, it looks so horrible on me. And I'm just going to run. Look how fast he's running. Wow. And they're probably filming this from the back of a truck or something like that. Anyway, that was cool. That was cool. That stuck with me. That is the way. So, when you're a kid and you get this anger, you get a lot of anger. You got a lot of anger and frustration, and people don't understand you, and you can't talk to people because you're a little kid and you're trying to be a man and you're trying not to cry and you're trying to just be tough. You're like, what do I do with all this anger? What do I do with it? Well, this is an answer. This is an answer. You just find yourself some gravel and just stomp it out. Just stomp it out. Just run. Run. A lot of us, I think, I don't know if you guys, nobody seems to remember this scene. It was one of those scenes where I rented the movie from Amazon. I looked at it and I was like, did this scene ever happen? And there it was. Texas Junior Baseball Association. You got to get the heck out of there. Yeah. So that's a life lesson, when you're feeling really, got a lot of anger, don't take it out on your coach. He's just trying to help. William Devane. You're just trying to help. Go take it out on some gravel. Just run. I think that's why, a lot of people run marathons and stuff because they can get away from the world and just run. I've noticed when you go out in the world, which I've done very little of lately, there are still people out there running. And a lot of times when I drive by somebody running, I go, hey, what are you running from? And they're just like, whoa. Hey, what are you doing over there? Why are you running? Who's after you? So sometimes if you run a lot, it's a good thing to just ask yourself, what am I running from? It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. Sometimes actors, I have this friend who's a coach, an acting coach. She's actually my acting coach. And she says that sometimes she has the actors run around the block before they shoot a scene. I'm looking down here to see if there's a suggestion from the audience. I just want to see what the chat room is my phone right now because there is no live. Nobody's seeing this yet. But I will release it to the world. These are great topics. I've spoken too long, though, and I really want to just get on with a couple of things here because I need to get to the surprise at the end of the show. First thing I want to show you is something that's very special to me. My wife was in a movie called The Intervention, which was a great movie, by the way. If you can find it, it is a fantastic movie. Shannon Heil directed it. Kamala Lopez is in it. Richard Eden is in it. These are friends of ours, and because Kamala did this movie, The Intervention. If I had a poster, I'd show you. It's a psychological thriller. It's just really good. Check it out if you can see it. I'll try and find a link to it. But anyway, the point of that is we were at Fangoria Film Festival in Las Vegas because this movie was playing. And we were just having a good old time. And it was Halloween. And I dressed up like, in my best Jackie Earl Haley costume. And I'm running around. We're running around Vegas just having a ball. And we were hanging out with this guy. And, he was just cool. He was like a manager. And he was a really tall guy. And just fun. I don't know if I'll ever see this guy again. I got a picture of me here with him. That's me and in my Halloween costume with the glasses on. And then this guy. You know who this guy turns out to be? The Looper. The Looper from Bad News Bears. That's him. I mean, he was like the runt of the litter during the thing. And great, really funny. Probably one of my favorite actors in it besides Jackie Earle Haley. Turns out that's him. That is him. Anyway, shout out to that guy. I don't even remember his name. I got to look it up. If I could, I'd put a little Chiron down at the bottom. But we'll just call him the Looper for now. He's a good dude. Anyway, so now I've got a special treat for you. I have a dear friend of his, one of my best friends. Easily. One of my oldest friends. And he's been watching the show. And he lives in Oman. And he's going to give us an update on what's going on in Oman. He's out there teaching. And we just a side note, when we were in high school together, we used to drive around in his car. And it was a Toyota Corona. Little did we know. Little did we know. So anyway, here's his update. And coming your way.
Hello, hi. Hey, Joel. This is Oreo here. I was going to maybe stay up and watch your midday madness, but I'm still in Oman, so I decided that it's probably best that I don't stay up that late and give you a Skype call. So I'll just make something here in the middle of the day, which is the middle of the night back in LA. Because here in Oman, it's the middle of the day, as you can tell from Oreo, who's wide awake, ready to hang out and maybe do a few things before he sleeps again. All right, so you all right? He's okay. All right, so we were telling some stories a couple days ago about high school and a long time ago, back in the 80s and things like that. Just wanted to share a story going back to Madrona Junior High School. This is back at the time when America had junior high schools and not middle schools. So back at Madrona, I had this moment where I thought I had hit the academic lottery. I thought that I was going to become an A student in science. And the reason why is because Mr. Meredith, early in the year when he's passing out the textbooks, he hands me not a normal textbook, but the teacher's edition. And when I saw this, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be mediocre anymore. I'm going to be above average. And I looked through the book, and there was special margin notes in there that would tell me what the answers were or other ways in which I could become a science master. So I was just jubilant, but my fear is that somewhere down the line, Mr. Meredith would catch me with the book. And Mr. Meredith was a pretty scary guy because he was big, and he was like big as a bear. And in the summertime, he'd go off to Alaska, and he was a commercial fisherman. And he had these hands that were like 3 times larger than my hands. And I just imagine I'm looking through my teacher's edition book, getting all the answers, and I just feel his bear claw on my shoulder saying something like, all right, Mr. Lowman, you got some explaining to you. You go on down to the assistant principal's office, and they're going to have a word with you. And I thought, well, probably what's going to happen is my parents are going to be called in, and then I'm going to get suspended, and there'll probably be a permanent letter that would show up in my junior high school folder. And that's the thing I did not want, because I was an unremarkable student, and I didn't want any remarks to be negative if the negative remarks were going to come out. So I went throughout the year with this teacher's edition book, and when the tests were given, I consistently got C's and D's, and I couldn't really understand it because I had the teacher's edition. How could I possibly be mediocre and average? I was supposed to be a science whiz kid. Then I started to feel dread because I didn't really realize that I would have to give that book back. And when I give the book back to Mr. Meredith in June, what's going to happen is that he's going to see that I've been looking at the teacher's answers the entire time. But of course what happened is that when I turned in the book, he just kind of gave it a cursory glance and put it back on the shelf. He didn't really care. He wanted out for summer vacation, probably thinking more about Alaska than about Jeff Lowman's textbook. So that's my moment of stupidness from early on back in the day.
That was awesome, Jeff. Thanks for sending that in. Mr. Meredith, I remember him. I had that same teacher, and he used to have a calendar where he would X off all the days during the year because he just wanted to get to the end of the year. And he was going to be a football player. He's a big dude. He was going to be like a Raider, I think. And I don't know. Maybe when he was teaching us, I don't think he liked teaching. And he made no bones about it. He actually, there was one guy, Steve Bludoff, who used to fall asleep in class, and he would Mr. Meredith would take a piece of chalk and just throw it at his head until he could wake him up. It was kind of fun. I mean, we really enjoyed that. Jeff, thanks for that very enlightening presentation. I think, we got secrets. It's a secret that you had that book the whole year. It's so great. And there's another essay that Jeff wrote. Maybe you can get it out of him. Jeff's a very fine writer, and he wrote this essay about what it was like when he was a student and how he kind of thought that maybe, he was kind of at the effect of how the test was written to decide how well he would do or how well he wouldn't do. And he didn't realize that he had total control over that. And now look at him. He's one of the best teachers around. And he's out there in Oman. So shout out to you and Mayada and Oreo. And I hope things are going well for you. And I will talk to you soon. And we're going to sign off. I'm going to sign off. I ran out of time. It's a half-hour show, usually. I'm going to have Jimmy Shin on here tomorrow, and he's going to Skype in, and we're just going to do kind of interview style tomorrow, because there's a lot. This guy's deep, and there's a lot to learn from this guy. So that's what's happening, and I will see you tomorrow on Lunch Therapy.